This will be my first time directing a concert in Symphony Hall. I'm very excited about it. Mozart Symphony No. 40, the Big G minor symphony as it's sometimes called, is one of my favorite pieces to perform, and I think it's because there's a large range of emotions in it. When I'm playing it, the first movement really is dramatic and dark and bold, and the second movement is very lyrical and sweet. And it also has a very elegant minuet and a very exciting and virtuosic last movement. This is one of the last 3 symphonies that Mozart wrote. And it's not actually clear for what purpose he wrote them. We don't know if there was a specific performance that he had in mind or not. But his last 3 symphonies are each very different in mood and character, and they're all very majestic in scope. And I feel that the G minor is maybe one of the most emotional pieces that I know of Mozart. I think the highlight of Beethoven's triple concerto will be the interplay between the 3 soloists. Beethoven wrote extremely complicated virtuosic music for each of the 3 soloists, and the way they're intertwined, I think, gives great interest for the listener. I think it's also one of Beethoven's more lighthearted pieces from that time. At around the same time that the triple concerto was finished, he was completing his Eroica symphony, his 3rd symphony, which is extremely grand and with enormous orchestral forces. And, well, it was a huge statement musically and politically, and it was, I would say, very serious. I think in great contrast, the triple concerto, it has a lighthearted, almost symphony concertante feel, where there's 3 soloists conversing with each other very elegantly over musical topics. And it ends up being a very exciting, but really a friendly and supportive conversation. Well, the Chevalier de Saint-Georges was actually to me, a very fascinating historical figure. He was one of the most important violinists and indeed musicians in Paris in the late 18th century. He was very well known as a virtuoso violinist, and also he was one of the finest swordsmen in Europe. And his presence in the salons and the social circles of Paris was always met with great excitement. He must have played the violin extremely well, because there's a lot of records of him performing concertos of his own that he composed, and also concertos of other people. He went on to become, later in his career, the concertmaster and leader of several of the most important orchestras in Paris in the 18th century. And I think he's not unknown as a figure to the 18th century people who study 18th century music, but I think his compositional output is not as well known as it deserves to be. He was a very skilled composer, and I think that it's unfortunate that we've lost the knowledge of some of his music over the last few hundred years, and I'm very pleased that we at Handel and Haydn Society can perform some of it this week.